Life has a way of blindsiding us when we least expect it. We spend years building routines, relationships, and trust, believing the ground beneath us is stable, until one day, without warning, it crumbles in a single moment. For me, that moment came in the form of a text message that ended 15 years of marriage. 3 days ago, on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, I was at work, buried in spreadsheets and numbers, when my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen, expecting a casual note about dinner or a reminder about some errand. Instead, I saw my wife's name, Olivia Parker, 39 years old, and beneath it, words that would change everything. Ethan Miller, I want a divorce. Please direct all future communication through my lawyer, Mr. Peterson. His contact details will follow. I froze. For at least 5 minutes, I just stared at the message. It felt unreal, like I had slipped into someone else's life. Just the night before, we had shared dinner together, laughing about the weekend plans and watching a show on Netflix. Nothing had seemed off. There was no fight, no distant tone, no warning signs. And now, with a single text, it was all over. The first wave was shock. Then came hurt, cutting deeper than I could have imagined. Anger bubbled under the surface too. But strangely, sitting on top of it all, I felt calm, as though my brain had gone into autopilot. She had set the rules. No direct communication, only through lawyers. If that was what she wanted, then that was exactly what she would get. My reply was short and cold. Understood. From that moment, I stopped thinking like a husband and started acting like someone managing a crisis. If this was going to be handled legally, then all informal arrangements we had as a couple no longer applied. Our finances had always been partly separate. We each had our own accounts, but Olivia had supplementary credit cards tied to mine, cards I had authorized but still fully owned. Within minutes, I logged into my banking app and canceled them all. Authorization revoked. Done. Next came the allowance. For years, I had transferred her a monthly sum into her personal account for discretionary spending. It wasn't huge, but it gave her independence. I canceled that too, effective immediately. Shared services like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Spotify were all under my name. I logged into each account, signed out every device except mine, and reset the passwords. If she wanted them, she could pay for them herself. The car she drove was another issue. It was leased under my name with insurance I paid for. I didn't cancel the insurance right away. I wasn't about to risk her driving uninsured, but I made a note to bring it up with my lawyer. Even her gas card was tied to one of the canceled accounts, which meant it was now useless. It took me less than an hour to sever the financial ties. Not out of spite, but because I was simply following the reality she created. She had ended our marriage with a text, demanded all communication through lawyers, and in doing so, dissolved the trust and informal agreements we'd lived on for years. An hour later, her lawyer's details arrived in my inbox. I forwarded them directly to Ms. Cole, a top divorce attorney a colleague had recommended during his own split. I scheduled a consultation, explained the situation, and asked about immediate next steps: protecting assets, establishing boundaries, and securing representation. That night, I went home to an empty house. Olivia had already packed her things. No note, no explanation, just absence. Strangely, I slept better than expected. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was the body's way of protecting itself. By Friday afternoon, 72 hours later, I received a call from an unknown number. Something told me exactly who it would be, I answered. Hello? Is this Ethan Miller? The voice was sharp, impatient. Speaking. This is Mr. Peterson. I represent Olivia Parker. My client is experiencing some difficulties. All right, I said evenly. Her cards have been declined. All funds cut off abruptly. This is highly irregular, Mr. Miller. Financial status quo is generally maintained during separation. I stayed calm. Mr. Peterson, my wife texted me on Tuesday demanding a divorce and stating all communication must go through you. I acknowledged and complied. That meant informal financial arrangements ceased immediately. Any future support will be discussed formally through you and my counsel, Ms. Cole, whom I've retained. There was a pause. I could hear papers shuffling, irritation in his breathing. She needs funds now, for necessities. Accommodation. That word, accommodation, caught me off guard. Accommodation? I repeated. Where is she? That's not pertinent, he replied coldly. You acted in bad faith by cutting her off without warning. I took a slow breath, keeping my voice steady. Mr. Peterson, with respect, my wife unilaterally ended our marriage via text message. She imposed the lawyer-only rule, effectively ending the status quo of trust and communication. Financial support will be established legally, not by frantic calls over declined credit cards she was never entitled to in the first place. If she needs money for accommodations or necessities, that is something to be addressed in formal proceedings, not by breaking the very rule she demanded. Another pause followed. The silence spoke volumes. He hadn't expected me to be this calm, this prepared. When I hung up, I felt a strange mix of emotions. On the surface, calmness. Beneath it, grief and anger. But most of all, I felt resolve. She had chosen the battlefield. I was simply adapting to the terrain. 15 years of marriage, reduced to transactional discussions between lawyers. No closure, no explanation. Just a sterile message and the echo of an empty house. And yet, as painful as it was, I realized something important. Clarity has its own kind of power. When illusions are stripped away, when the truth arrives in such a brutal, undeniable form, it forces you to see things differently. Olivia had drawn her line. She had chosen the method of our ending. All I did was respect it, and now, everything from here on would be decided formally, fairly, and legally. I didn't beg. I didn't chase. I simply took control of my side of the line she created. And in that decision, I found the first step toward moving on. Sometimes the harshest endings are the ones that finally give us clarity. When someone shows you where you stand, believe them, and choose to stand taller on your own. Thank you for taking the time to watch and listen to this story. Wishing you peace, strength, and a good day ahead.